Well, as we continue to wait for the outcome of the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals on the challenge of Illinois' gun and magazine ban, we're seeing the pieces come together for, if the ban is upheld, the registration that is going to be required, or those who own certain firearms before January 10th could face criminal penalties. Welcome in Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. So on Monday, the same day they ended cash bail in Illinois, the Illinois State Police filed emergency rules which take effect immediately once they're in the Illinois Register, which I'm told will be coming up for their next publication through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. And those emergency rules filed by Illinois State Police spell out all kinds of stuff from which firearms are considered banned and need to be registered, and also who the exempt classes are that do not need to comply with the firearms registry. So if you look at some of the information there, the form that they're proposing through these emergency rules, it asks for your name, FOID card, your make, model of various firearms that you're essentially swearing that you have, but also a note there that you got to indicate you're providing the information voluntarily. And I think that there's a much more thorough conversation that needs to happen about the Fifth Amendment, and that's your right against self-incrimination. That's a charge against the law that has yet to be litigated. But again, while we're waiting for the Second Amendment challenge out of the U.S. Circuit Court for the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, that's the Second Amendment challenge. Down in the Southern District of Illinois, Attorney Thomas Magg has a case challenging the vagueness issues. He does say that he's prepared to bring Fifth Amendment charges if the vagueness issues don't result in a preliminary injunction against the law. And that's going to be heard in the Southern District October 11th. So we're looking forward to that date as well. But again, you've got another case in state court brought by Attorney Thomas DeVore that had previously been dismissed following the Illinois Supreme Court's ruling against a separate case from State Representative Dan Calkins. So that's where we're at in the status of these cases. But regardless of those still being undecided, you have the state police moving forward as prescribed by the Protect Illinois Communities Act, the ban on certain semi-automatic firearms that defines semi-automatic firearms as, quote, assault weapons. You have the Illinois State Police releasing their rules. Now, reviewing the rules, we had Todd Vandermeide on yesterday. Here's just a sampling of what he had to say concerning the rules. And in particular, who is and who is not impacted by these rules. So here's Todd from yesterday in our conversation about these emergency rules that were filed.
I think they just doubled down on what Tom DeVore has been arguing about is to, the equal protection claims that are within here. I don't think they thought this all the way through. Some of these exemptions, so if you're a National Guard guy, you're exempt all the performance of your duties. I mean, where in their right mind do the state police think they're going to go arrest a National Guard guy in general when he's on duty? They have no jurisdiction there. But yeah, these are all political classes of people in some way, shape, or form. Retired cops. When I left the military, I left, machine guns, hand grenades, and all the fun stuff behind. I don't know why retired cops are any special category of individuals. And I would wager to say that I have more training and put more rounds down range than 99% of the cops do every year. Yet I don't fall into an exempt category. Not that I want to, but they also trick these guys up. And it's kind of interesting that they say that, if you have it outside, if you have a firearm outside your actual duty, you have to file for an affidavit and you have to have your little exemption noted on your FOID card or whatever. So, which begs the question, are they going to issue a whole new round of FOID cards?
So as you heard there, Todd says that a lot of the exemptions seem to provide ammunition of sorts, so to speak, no pun intended, to Tom DeVore's case in Effingham County, where he has filed again a motion to reconsider. And that motion to reconsider expected to be responded to by the state sometime in the next 30 days. And I think now it's down to like 25 days or so. But you've got the case in the state courts that DeVore says he can prove that equal protections are violated by exempting certain classes. police, retired police, those in the private security sector, those who work at prisons as wardens or jailers and so on. So all these exempt classes, DeVore argues that they are similarly situated than the regular citizen who have Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So he lays out some of the rationale behind his claim that he can prove this in court because of the training that the state says was the rationale behind setting up these exempt classes.
When they argued training in our case, they lost. When they argued training in front of the Supreme Court, it was all conjecture. There was no baseline to say this is their training and this is why they are sitting in a superior position to the citizen. There is nothing. If you look at the actual records of law enforcement, I just don't have them in the case yet. Many, many, many overwhelming law enforcement officers have no training on these banned weapons whatsoever. They're trained in handguns and shotguns. The governor very cleverly, because again, Calkins was a fool, with all due respect, took him to the Supreme Court with all the conjecture. It's about training. It's not in the statute. It's not in the legislative minutes. But if you, again, they didn't want any discovery. You know how hard they're fighting our case in discovery because they know I'm going to prove, when it comes down to it, that the citizens of this state are similarly situated, regardless of whether you're a retired Navy SEAL, as some of the stuff you saw, or regardless of whether you even have conceal and carry training really is not relevant because you're dealing with banned weapons. Having training on a handgun for a 4-inch Glock 9mm, what's it got to do with an AR-15 platform? Nothing. That's why I've attached the affidavit from the FOIA request that Kirk Allen did. It's a critical piece of information that shows that the prison wardens, which is one exempt class, I could really stop with them. They don't have any training at all on these weapons. And if you read those records and you understand training of firearms like I do, I'm a certified training instructor. These folks that are getting this training in these handguns, these prison wardens, aren't even astute with weapons because they're slapping the trigger all the time, which means they don't even know what they're doing. They don't have any training, Greg. This whole training argument is a fiction, and I can prove it.
So again, DeVore laying out the rationale he says is going to prove that the training is a fiction because the law doesn't spell that out. It doesn't say, retired police who are able to keep these firearms and register with or just keep them and not have to register. The law doesn't spell out they need, 40 hours a year of training on semi-automatic rifles like an AR-15 or an AK-47. Same thing for police. DeVore notes that they're trained on handguns and shotguns, which the vast majority are not part of this particular ban. So I just wanted to bring those voices together to kind of give you a sense of where we're at in this overall conversation. A lot more is going to be said about all of this, especially with the rules that are going to go in front of the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules October 17th. So we'll see what kinds of conversations there are regarding how these are going to be implemented and really how it's going to be enforced down the line. So a lot more to be said about all of this.